Hi, this is Eva for Once Upon a Timeline, and today we're going to discuss bleeding trees and water producing trees. Some trees can act like spigots now, and you can get water out of them. Okay, so first let's talk about the water producing trees. Here's an example of some people out in the jungle, and they were thirsty. Now, you may have heard in the old days they would say that there's vines that you can cut for water. Well, apparently now there are trees that you could cut for water. So they cut a notch into this tree and it turns into a spigot and everybody can drink out of it. And this is Terminalia tomentosa tree. Now, what's interesting about this whole spiel is a couple years ago, I started seeing images online of trees that would be spewing water out. And at that time, if you researched them, they would say that they were diseased trees that had bacterial wetwood diseases that were causing the trees to rot internally. And if you cut them, water would come out. But if just looking for that storyline now, although I still see that there is bacterial wetwood out there, I was not able to find any examples of trees really spewing out water from this disease. Since that time, several years ago, now they're saying there's actually various species of trees that will do this, this one being a better known one. But many of the Terminalia species will do it, apparently. Here's a Terminalia elliptica, which is also known for doing it. But Terminalia tomentosa still is the main one. Some members of the species store water in the dry season. A survey conducted at Bandipur National Park, India, showed that a proportion of trees store water and there is girth-dependent increase in frequency and amount of water storage. The mechanism and ecophysiological significance of this water storage is not known. But the storyline is basically that the people who live in these forests know about that, and when they're thirsty, they will just cut these trees. Okay, so can we do this in the U.S.? Well, apparently now we can. Those of you who are into wilderness survival might be interested to know that a fair number of trees now can be milked for their water producing capabilities. You notch it, you put a twig in there, then you tie your canteen underneath and let it drip for a number of hours, and you will get clean, fresh, healthy, safe water. This particular tree is supposed to be a birch tree, but apparently there are a number of trees that will do this now. You can check out this video online, how to fill your canteen from a tree. Okay, so beyond just water producing trees, I've also seen a lot of videos of water just spewing out of trees, even when they're not cut. And this is an example of one. I'm going to run it a little bit here. So basically, just a ton of water is coming out of this tree. Now, the storyline I'm getting currently right now is that the high water table is forcing water up through the roots, and it's coming out up higher. That did not happen in my old timeline. Water could not push backwards through a tree like that. But there's been a number of examples of these. Now, when these videos first came out, there was no explanation. It was kind of clickbaity, and people were suspecting that someone had stuck a hose in there. But now it has a scientific explanation. So there you go with that one. Okay, so now what about trees that bleed? I started seeing these a couple years ago too. And at first they would say the same thing, that it was some kind of bacterial disease or something like that. But now if you look it up, there's actually official types of trees that do this, and the blood is called kino. So you can see that it looks like blood, and it's supposed to be actually a coagulant similar to regular blood, that when the tree is cut, it bleeds this material which coagulates and seals the hole. You can see there's a lot of pretty creepy looking images of it. At first, a couple years ago, I just see these images, but there wasn't much explanation. But now this stuff is called kino. Kino is the name of the plant gum produced by various plants and trees, particularly eucalyptus, in reaction to mechanical damage. It can be tapped by making incisions, and it's also known for its medicinal properties and also can be used for tanning. So now we have an official batch of trees that bleed. Very interesting. That was not in my old timeline. In fact, interestingly, we have a lot of eucalyptus around here, and I've studied them quite a bit in the past, and I can guarantee you that there were no bleeding eucalyptus back then. Here's an example of someone cutting into one. You can see this is quite a lot of material coming out of this tree. It's hard to believe that that much liquid is in one stump. So pretty trippy. There's another one that's been cut open. I mean, I'm certainly familiar with some sap coming out of a tree, but it wasn't like a spigot. So it's pretty crazy. There's some more spurting. So supposedly these trees store so much water, if you cut them, it just oozes out all over the place. Pretty crazy. Anyway, so my understanding is that that's in the Bible too, when trees bleed. So here is another video showing bleeding trees, a sign of the apocalypse, bleeding trees. Shows more similar kind of things that we've already seen. What's interesting about this video, it's called A Sign of the Apocalypse, Bleeding Trees. And I read down here, one of the signs of the apocalypse of Ezra is bleeding trees. In chapter 5 of 2 Esdras Uriel says that blood shall drop from the wood of, or the trees shall bleed. I've never heard of the apocalypse of Ezra, so I looked it up and I found it here. And this is supposed to be a King James Bible study thing. Number 5, and blood shall drop out of wood, and the stone shall give his voice, and people shall be troubled. And it looks like it's talking about other parts of the end times here. There shall be confusion in many places, as salt water shall be found in the sweet, and all friends shall destroy one another. Blah, blah, blah. There's even some about the sun in here. But what's weird is I didn't know of this as being part of the Bible, and maybe it's just because I don't know about the Bible. But here it says, why is 2 Esdras shown with the King James Bible? And the answer, 2 Esdras was published in the original 1611 King James Bible. So that's why they're including it in the KJV here. The Apocrypha is a selection of books which were published in the original 1611 King James Bible. The apocryphal books were positioned between the Old and New Testament. It also contained maps and genealogies. The Apocrypha was a part of the KJV for 274 years until being removed in 1885 AD. A portion of these books were called deuterocanonical books by some entities, such as the Catholic Church. Anyways, they're including it in here, which I think is interesting, and I don't know if it means anything. But anyways, there you go. This is Eva signing off for Once Upon a Timeline.